So we are live on YouTube as well. We'll be beginning in 2 minutes.
Okay, I think we can begin now.
Welcome everyone. The Jai Hind College Autonomous Global Entrepreneurship Summit 2022, presented by HDFC Bank.
Can we please have the slide, Isha?
Powered by Bright Outdoor Media Private Limited, co-sponsored by Baggett, in association with Plum Body Loving, trading partner Havenspire, home decor partner Whipple Homes, youth community partner The Education Tree, in association with Digital India, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, National E-Governance Division, Make in India, Skill India, Maharashtra State Innovation Society, Enactus, AWS Activate, Startup India, Mumbai Angels Network, Inflection Point Venture, TIE Mumbai, and Vadvani Foundation. We welcome you to the fourth session, Create Your Digital Brand by Dr. Kushal Sangvi. A brand is a voice and a product is a souvenir. But a brand without a digital presence is like a car without tires. Creating a digital brand requires discipline, soul searching, review relevant market data, and in the end, digital strategy and brand planning. I'd now like to invite Tisha Pahuja to introduce our speaker for the session.
Thank you, Nandika. The founder member of Rediff.com, director of Amplify, IT Hub, vice chairman of ICOM Global, Dr. Kushal Sangvi is currently the head at Citrus App, one of the world's leading white label self-serve retail media platform. Dr. Kushal is a man with a wealth of business expertise like media content specialist, growth revenue driver, marketing tech learner, agency leader, TED speaker, startup advisor, and angel investor. He is in every way the media evangelist. He sees new media as an integral part of brand expansion. In his spare time, he loves to read, write, paint, and sculpt, explore the world, meet new people, and explore new cultures, and listen to all sorts of world and Indian music. With that, we welcome you, sir, and thank you for taking out your time to be here today. Over to you, sir, for today's session.
Thank you so much, Tisha, for this sort of warm welcome. And, good afternoon once again to one and all in the afternoon as well. I'm sure it's a busy day with sessions from the morning with all of you guys as well. And I'm sure it's busy tomorrow as well. And I sort of do understand that these are sort of different times when I think the world has moved to platforms like these, and you aren't even, probably in that situation to sort of meet people face to face. I hope that, of course, that not just Jai Hind, but many other colleges are able to open doors pretty much like schools pretty soon as well, to make sure that you're able to meet one another and share and enact and do many things that you guys have been missing out on as well. But with much sort of, of that as a backdrop now as well, let's try for a moment and just understand the topic of today's discussion. And what's most important today, I think, is we've seen it much more than ever before, is that with the world shaken by the pandemic and everything really moving towards in bits and pieces of discovery, opportunity, and every single thing happening through our sort of smartphones, devices, which are enabled through technology. I think it's almost impossible to think of any company which doesn't believe in or does not walk along the path of how the world is moving. And when I say that, I think technology was 20 years back seen as a subset within an organization which was more like driven by IT or technology people. And it was typically a lot of the other people which were not even knowledgeable of what was happening in that space. But I think it's going to be times ahead when a lot of you all will be taking your careers, that it's going to be wearing multiple hats, and technology is going to be part and parcel of what you would already be knowledgeable for. So it's not something that you will say that you will have to have as a separate function, and a separate team of people will do that. And yet at the same time, people in functions of building brand, building identity, and all that as well are not going to be restricted to just doing things on the space of creating, I think, marketing, I think, success, but also we have to be driven through thinking through how each of this is going to be, I think, steered using a way of reaching people faster, easier, and yet looking at ways that technology can become a driver to that process as well. I'm going to try and request somebody to just pick out a video. And this is a company that almost is part of our daily life. We spend at least nothing less than 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour. Anyone wants to take a guess what company I'm talking about? It's part of our system every day. We almost look at it for every piece of information we seek. Not that I'm asking for the video for Google, Samriddhi.
Isha, can we have that video? Isha, do you need me to share or do you have it?
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ लंगोटिया यार सी मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाबा आदम के जमाने। रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से झझरिया चुरा के खानी।
झझरिया?
और मेरा साहब नमस्ते।
नमस्ते, मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
और बेटे क्या हाल चाल है?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूदे फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे।
हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
फाजिल स्वीट्स।
हाँ जी। दादाजान, दिल्ली से किसी की कॉल है।
हेलो,
यूसुफ अंकल।
कौन?
जी मैं सुमन बोल रही हूँ दिल्ली से, आपके बचपन के दोस्त बलदेव जी की पोती। याद है बचपन में आप दोनों झझरिया चुरा के खाते थे?
बचपन की तंग गली फिर से कूदे फांदे, छोटी छोटी मीठी चोरी गांठ लेके बांधे। एक पतंग सा उड़ता था परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह, परिंदों की तरह। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
पार्टीशन के वक्त हम रातों रात हिंदुस्तान आ गए।
दादू
यूसुफ दी बड़ी याद आती है।
कागजों की कश्तियों में डूबा रहता था, झांकती खिड़कियों में उलझा रहता था। वो भी क्या दौर था, मन पे न जोर था। एक दौर था मन मन मोर था, एक दौर था मन मन मोर था।
भैया थोड़ा जल्दी।
मन मोर।
हाँ जी, कौन?
हैप्पी बर्थडे यारा।
यूसुफ ओए, ओए यूसुफ, ओ मेरे बल्लू, ओए, हा 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 यूसुफ है यार।
Thanks so much, Isha, for that. And I'm sure a lot of you guys would have seen this before as well. But the reason I want to kind of build this context was it's probably one of the world's most leading brands of today. I think a part and parcel of our daily lives. But I think what's really beautifully laid out in this entire storytelling, piece created is how Google is almost something that we cannot live without, right? Almost for the smallest need of ours in our daily lives, we're searching for information, we're searching for weather, flights, every single thing, right? And that's how I think the largeness or the enormity of even the biggest company of the world is probably just put so well in a manner stitched, which I think emotion plays this biggest aspect of creating this sort of, I think, goosebumpy feeling you see this video, right? It's not so much about the fact of, yes, there is a lot of story in terms of India, Pakistan, and all that, which is the backdrop of this conversation. But I think what really drives this whole path of creating a digital brand is really stitching it up together and telling people that it's almost for the smallest basic needs, not just of what we call sort of search. And I think therefore, I think even for our grandmothers and grandfathers today, I think they sort of got used to, I think, understanding that search equals to Google or Google equals to search. So I'm not sure of, therefore, what is it that I think came first, search or Google today? It's so difficult to even tell that. But I think you ask someone in terms of something, you just ask someone, and the first thing someone says, just Google it, which means that it's become the most easy way to describe just something that we would do, looking up and doing research and any of that. And from that, I'm trying to kind of move and build in terms of if a company of that size, which is the largest technology giant in the world, of course, it's standing on various legs and pillars. And it began from search as a function to doing multiple different things across the large ecosystem that they're creating as well. But I think where I want to, try and build a narrative for today is that, without being able to almost touch human chord, and without being able to play on that emotional aspect of anyone, again, agnostic to country, agnostic to religion, I think that's the largest way that almost every successful business has been able to make a story. And that story becomes larger than life in terms of brand and communication, multiple things that you guys will be learning across a lot of your textbooks, a lot of your subjects as well. And sometimes it's just so easy that we take things for granted, right? And I'm going to now try and ask once again for Isha or somebody to just play out a video, and you could play out the Brussels video.
Sure, sir. Isha?
Good afternoon, SL 146 is ready to taxi.
Mr. Smith boarded? Just a minute, I'll just check for you. He's just boarded.
Okay, go, go, go!
Mr. Smith, can you look outside? There's a message for you.
Yes!
Thanks, Isha. So obviously, Brussels Airlines is not one of the largest airlines in the world. It's not as big and popular like, British Airways or the largest that we know of as well. But I think what it leaves in this sort of a texture and rubs, I think, someone is the fact that I think with just understanding simple aspects of data points that we're leaving, right? Which means, and there are 2-3 versions of this. I'm sure I'd love for the students to see multiple versions of that as well. So in this commercial, what you're seeing is that I think Mr. Smith has just had a child, and therefore the entire airline crew is out to sort of, I think, congratulate him for that as well. And the second one is even more interesting in the same series, where the child becomes older and the child is traveling with Mr. Smith. And what happens is he has a similar concept created as well, where the child is then wished as a happy birthday message when he's flying with his dad as well. And I think all of these are simple nuggets, but I think what's coming out is that when a lot of us travel or any place that you'd like to leave your information, right? A lot of times today, for example, we tend to believe that we're writing a particular phone number, email, something. We're going to be hesitant because we're going to be bombarded with either texts and messages and so much more to keep coming back to us. But this is a simple way that I think what really comes across is in this extremely fast hyper data world where messaging can play such a large role. And that's how a brand just picks up that and makes communication easy, fast. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of drama made in this sort of visual promise that Brussels wants to put out as well. But the thinking is that if a brand is almost able to sort of do this, what automatically you will get to believe in your thought process is that I think in the brand building process and even in the thought consideration set, if one is traveling to Europe or for that matter to Belgium, it's going to be in your consideration set to even think that maybe let me try and look up Brussels Airlines first and I'll try and fly that airline because you know that it's a caring airline, and that's going to be at the back of your mind for sure as well, right? So you might not think of Lufthansa first, but you probably think of Brussels in this context. And I think that's the power of building brand. I think what you have to do is figure out the smallest and easiest ways to have triggers to associate with how you'll be able to sort of get long lasting, not just conversations. So I think a lot of people think today a conversation, an engagement, a discussion board on social media is going to build great efficiency for branding. Maybe it's all for a particular period of time, but over a period of time, you might not remember that engagement, especially on social media as well. I think with a lot of these videos, I think long-term sort of building of that sort of, I think, digital persona graph of that brand is sort of built. And I think I'm going to come more and more closer to, I think, the whole sort of, I think, heart of this discussion today, that I think what we're really trying to create, and it's not about just a brand, which is a company or organization or a startup. So today, for example, for me, if I see Isha and I see Nandika and I see Samriti as well, you're not brands your own self, right? So what you are going to create for yourself amongst your peer group as just a reflection of your own personality and what you are as a person and the vibes that you sort of, I think, give out, right? And that is easily today possible by, I think, a lot of things that you all would do, not just in terms of verbal communication or in terms of physical meetings or in terms of, I think, when you would be in a college environment, in a maybe a classroom environment, right? But I think about it that for the longest time, you guys haven't been in classrooms. And now in that space of, in this virtual world, a lot of you guys are now becoming friends within what the world talks about, a meta universe, right? So which means that I think possibly the best way to create, I think, people to get attracted to one another is therefore in the way that you're going to create your own personality for your own self. And for that, obviously, I mean that it's not important that you need to be having presence across almost every platform. But I think a generation today, I think average all of you guys are between your teens, early 20s, or most of you are in your teens as well, right? And having said that, you would be on short video platforms, social media platforms, Instagram, chat, messaging platforms, blogs, LinkedIn, Quora, whatever as well. But perhaps 2 or 3 years from now, you will be in a situation wherein you will be probably taking the first career move of yours as well, joining into a situation in terms of your first job, role, assignment. And I think in that space, what companies will start to look at you guys is, I think, obviously for the moment, no one has tried to ever come close to what Facebook has done. There is nothing as powerful as Instagram, and there's nothing as large or close to a LinkedIn as well, which means that if you need to build your own personality and you want to take 2 or 3 different, I think, platforms, it could be a platform like TikTok, it could be Facebook, it could be a blog, it could be LinkedIn. But those are spaces in which I think the way you express yourself will perhaps start to be able to create signals for other people to respond to you, like you, share you, and what have you as well. And I think that's exactly what a brand does, right? It's no different from what Ashna would do, for example, for her own self. She would put up a post just talking about the weather or talking about how good the winter season in Bombay this year was, or about maybe a new pair of, I think, clothes that she bought for herself as well. And she just posted up on Instagram, a blog, somewhere else. Obviously, she would not talk about any of these things on LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn, she would probably talk about either something which is more in a space that I think gave her a feeling of being closer to either her sort of career goals or her vision or her thoughts or whatever as well. And through that process, she obviously got people to like what she wrote on winter. She liked people to see what clothes she's bought. Or if she's put up a little quote on LinkedIn as well, she's got people to engage with that as well. And that's exactly what even a small brand or a big brand would sort of do. But they would obviously do this in a manner of creating compelling stories, more often than not using video. But that video is allowed to you as well. So 20 years back, 10 years back, 6 years back, it was all text. Today, it's all voice, it's all video, it's all audio as well. Podcasts are growing faster than ever before as well. There's much more stuff happening in terms of visual media as well. And I think that's the power of, I think, today, brands creating that easier way for recall, retention, value, creating sustenance, and many more things as well. Now, think of a brand that maybe you don't understand in terms of language. So India alone has got about hundreds of languages. If you include the smallest vernacular and many more. And if you just look at the major states, there are at least about 40 of them as well. But forget India for a moment, because I'm guessing that even in this classroom and in that college, a lot of people are across different states as well. So I'm going to ask you to pick out the next video, which is not from India. It, in any manner, is not something which you can understand from a language perspective. But take a look at this one. This is from Thailand. So let's take a look at this one. Can we have that, Samriti?
Yes, sir. Isha, Thai Insurance.
Sure.
เขาจะได้อะไร ถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวัน เขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลย ไม่ได้รวยขึ้น ไม่ได้ออกทีวี ไม่มีใครรู้จัก ไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้น เพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้ คือได้แค่ความรู้สึก ได้เห็นความสุข ได้เข้าใจ ได้ความรัก ได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิม ในชีวิตคุณ อะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
ไทยประกันชีวิตเชื่อในความดี
How many of you guys have seen this one before?
Yes, so I have seen it before.
Yes,
I'm sure a lot of
even
people
I
as
have.
well, because of course it's widely seen across on YouTube for many years. It's a commercial that's sort of, I think, had multiple sort of awards sort of globally as well. And the reason I wanted to show you this was that it's not something which in any manner speaks to you in the language which you understand, right? and yet the brand comes so close to you to build that largeness or the enormity of what it wants to talk. And despite the fact that there are about at least 40 different insurance companies in Thailand alone, I think what makes this stand out is just the human connect in terms of, I think, how that person is showcased in his life. And that's really what really matters, right? Because as some categories of products are concerned, I think a lot of times insurance is not the easiest product for people to sell, and it's never construed well when you're buying as well. There always some hidden TNCs, various things as well, right? And you don't know whether you should buy HDFC or LIC or ICICI or whatever as well, when there's just so many of them. And finally, what you land up buying is perhaps something that Sarotaka Geo is saying to you, or something that LIC is saying, because yes, all of us reading LIC is going to have an IPO, and that's the news. And suddenly, therefore, if it's in your consideration set to buy insurance, you probably say, okay, fine, I'll probably choose between X brand and Y brand, because yes, they're probably creating that perception in your mind. And that's really what it is about, creating that personality differentiation, that you need to figure out that, is there a way that you tell a story that other people don't tell? A lot of times brands are able to do this on the back of great credentials of your product itself, right? So you don't expect something that Thai Insurance did from a company like Apple. Because when you want Apple to showcase things to you, what you want is cutting edge technology. You want to see the best new things, right? So every year in September, when the conference is out to sort of, I think, talk about the new iPhone or the new iPad or the new, XYZ, whatever Apple has launched, you're waiting with great enthusiasm at night, especially for us, for many Apple sort of fanboys or people who love Apple, to sort of just know what's going to come on, right? But they don't need to take that path of using emotion, using the story of what goes into the product promise, which some brands need to sort of do. So I think what is important is when you're building that personality for yourself, whether it is digital, physical, or whatever is required as well, is to sort of pick something which resonates with you, which people identify with as well. Or then you work backwards to say that, you know what, we are in a category which is just so dull, so boring. We're not a fizzy energy drink like Coca-Cola, and we're not even a company which is like, something which is everyday bought like bread or butter or cheese. So think of a company which is perhaps in a space of office automation, or a company which is just creating value perhaps for us in our daily life in terms of just perhaps, I want to talk about it, but I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. But yes, I'm talking about a printer. It's as just a device which is enabling you to take out a sheet of paper that gets things printed on basis what you want, right? And honestly, there's no difference whether I buy Canon or I buy HP, or if I buy Lenovo, if I buy something else or whatever as well. And there's about at least 20 different brands of printers available in the market. Yes, one can say that, yes, we print 500 pages per 2 seconds. Or one can say that we've got the shortest size of printer. Someone can say, you know what, we sort of do the most fantastic laser printing if you try and use some other materials and what as well. But now take a look at this. This is completely different. And take a look at what HP is showcasing in their communication.
निकले जो तुम आज घर से फरमाइशों की फेहरिस्त साथ लेके, बटुए में बंद करके वो नोट 1000, तुम निकले भरी दोपहरी खरीदने बाजार।
माँ दिए?
हाँ जी ले।
इस चकाचौंध इस धक्का मुक्की में शायद तुम लेना भूल गए, ये कच्ची मिट्टी के पक्के दिए तुम साथ ले जाना भूल गए।
अम्मा दिए देना।
भूल गए बचपन में कैसे इनसे घर रोशन करते थे।
स्माइल।
तुम जिद करके बार बार 2 दिए ज्यादा लिया करते थे।
हैप्पी दिवाली।
अरे लल्ला, जब तक ये सब बिक ना जाए काहे की हैप्पी दिवाली। अरे तू रहने दे लल्ला, अब तू मेरी छोड़, खुश रह खुश रह। ये ले ये दो रख ले।
थैंक यू अम्मा। और आप फिक्र मत कीजिए, सारे दिए बिक जाएंगे। बाय।
इसी आस की मिट्टी लेकर मैं आशा के दिए बनाती हूँ, और हर दिवाली जर्रा जर्रा मैं इसी बाजार बिखर जाती हूँ। अरसे बाद वो आज फिर यहाँ आया है। सालों बाद उसने इन दियों को गले लगाया है। बुझ गई थी उम्मीद की जो आखिरी मशाल, इस दिवाली किसी ने उस अंधेरे में एक हल्का सा दिया जलाया।
अम्मा दिए।
अरे अब एक भी दिए ना बचे लल्ला।
कहा था ना अम्मा, सारे दिए बिक जाएंगे।
इस दिवाली आप भी उम्मीद का एक दिया जलाएं, किसी और की दिवाली को भी रोशन बनाएं। हैप्पी दिवाली।
I think what this brand is doing is, I think, remarkable for a country like India, an international brand which obviously world over uses a premise of saying the usual stories of branding, right? In terms of HP, flawless printers, great printing ink, all prints as many pages and has better quality for children and all of those things as well. But I think as a category, I think we realize that I think there's a lot of focus now that HP takes in terms of not just office automation, but selling printers into homes. And the whole thought of therefore trying to, I think, position that aspect of HP in people's homes, especially for children doing projects and all of people like you all as well, which means I'm sure everyone, at least not everyone, but at least a lot of people in Jain will be using printers at home for your different projects and assignments and what have you as well. And to sort of, I think, just put that context of therefore a printer could be as priced as 10,000 rupees or anything for that matter. But having seen this commercial, it could have been 2 years old, made in Diwali, and sort of, put a context of, I think, create an impression of doing good. And I think what happens is in these little messaging that you saw in the earlier context of Thai insurance, or even in the case of HP, I think somewhere the underlying, or I think below the sort of funnel in the marketing thought process has been this whole subliminal pushing of somehow, I think, just feeling of goodness and doing goodness. And I think that's what what you will think of is when the next time you're probably on Flipkart wanting to buy a printer and you see 3-4 different offers with discounts, all that as well. Believe you me, the rub-off effect of seeing this Amma commercial, even on this, sort of gathering right now amongst so many students, will definitely play a critical role in not just seeing what value and offer Flipkart has, but to say that maybe I'll buy this because I just saw this little earlier. So what really, I think the child and Amma play in this whole conversation is to build this brand to a large global flavor, right? It's India positioned for HP and which no other country is sort of doing. So I think where you're building brand, you have to sort of also start to realize that, you have a international story and you've got a local story as well. And today it's not just local, it'll be even state and regional. So I'm sure, for example, in times ahead to come, there will be the similar versions of maybe the same Amma commercial, maybe done in Bengal in Bengali. And perhaps it might not necessarily be on YouTube, but you'll probably see a smaller portion of that on perhaps a platform like Chingari or Moj. And that's really how I think when you're building brand and I think doing things in a flavor and a context to, I think, create, I think that element of getting people closer to what you're doing for them has to sort of, I think, build that entire equation or bridge as well. In this whole process of, I think, creating brand, creating your own digital identity, I think what's really coming out very, very strongly from the largest companies is it's getting very, very close to how the consumer is seeing them or wants to see them. So we've seen a lot of companies even sometimes creating brands basis consumer interest. Haven't we all at some point? I'm sure all of us, I don't think, it's only Ashna and it's only Samriddhi is eating noodles. I'm sure I will not feel guilt to tell anyone on this, audience of 500 people that I still like my Maggi noodles even if I'm 40 years old. And believe me, it's the easiest snack to have any point of time as well. And the same Maggi then goes ahead and creates advertising and creates flavors basis people's what they perceive of what they want Maggi to be. And a lot of these largest global brands have done that in the past as well, which means you're almost expecting the brand to create a flavor, create a product. And it's not necessarily only, believe me, it's not necessarily only in the food space. So you might think that this is only relevant to, for example, Lay's to make chips or Pepsi to make a flavored cold drink or, Maggi to make a flavor as well. But it could very well happen to someone making a different type of shoes. We've seen Nike do this basis, understanding that there is a need for someone who's having a problem to insert his foot into the shoe, is making the shoe easier for him to put his foot inside. And that's really coming so close to, I think, what the consumer wants. And putting out some stuff for the person wanting to buy, even while he's thinking about it, is the best thing to build that digital or larger than life sort of presence. So I'm not going to keep on trying to sort of, I think, try to say that, yes, you've got to build a digital brand. Because today, I think digital is almost part of the system today. But when you're building something, yes, using technology as an enabler is critical. Making sure that, it's got a larger play. So it's not just HP doing this for having shelf life of selling printers for 2-3 years, but they want longevity. And so that for all of you all as students of marketing, as brand, as business, as wanting to become entrepreneurs or whatever as well, you need to think much more long-term. Today, I'm sure a lot of you guys have sort of seen, the show of startups, which was just done on Sony very recently. It's got so much of noise around in social media as well, with at least hundreds of startups sort of who've got sort of funding as well. But at the heart of it, so many of them, I'm sure when they came up in the show, perhaps that you saw that they had the worst branding made for themselves. They had the worst logos, they had the worst, all of it, right? And we heard from a lot of those people as judges that maybe will help you in the process to create your brand itself first. We'll help you in that space. But I think that's the role that I think all of you as students are going to be taking to be able to either build brands for businesses and startups and all that as well, or even for a moment that with the time that you guys have right now, stop, pause, check, balance, and see what is it that I'm doing. Am I making sure that yes, that is my other colleague even knowing what I'm doing is what my other friend, and it's even more difficult in these times because you're not meeting as well. And therefore, perhaps what Isha has got to post on her latest, video on Insta Reels has got to make sure that, yes, at least 50 new friends she's made in Jain College sees her reel. And basis that perhaps gets in some manner engaged to her, talking to her, communicating with her, and pretty much all that as well. And at least to drive a professional conversation, I would certainly encourage all of you all to start in the smallest manner. Yes, many years back, we saw LinkedIn amend its policy. I think in times that we were on LinkedIn many years back as well, you had to be in a certain age already in working life that you could even register to be on LinkedIn. Today, that's not there, right? But as students, I'm sure all of you guys are. So I would advise all of you guys to start creating your own personality within LinkedIn. Start to follow people, start to read what people are doing, post all of that as well. Yes, through this forum itself, I'm more than happy. All of you guys should start to sort of reach out to me for any single thing as well. I'm always happy to help, always happy to ensure that, yes, people get some sort of a, it's not just being part of this session for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, and, having this sort of big sort of annual summit. But I think the relationships amongst someone of myself or whoever comes next to the panel must continue with, I think, platforms like social media, which is why it's there built as well. So utilize that, engage. I'm sure, we've seen posts that you guys have done as well. Don't use it as a post to just say that, yes, there's a great entrepreneurship sort of summit happening, but use it to your advantage to get connected and talk. I'm going to perhaps leave some time for questions, which I'm sure you guys have lots of questions. But as people, you know what? We always have, I think, perhaps whenever I talk to a lot of my nieces, my nephews, and many other people, you know what? They tell me, I've got this bucket list. I want to do this before I'm 25. I want to own this before I'm 30. I want to go here before I do this. And it's not about young or old. I think all of us have those little things, right? It could be a simple thing that, yes, you want your wife to make so-and-so food in the evening for you. Or as a child, you may want your mom to suddenly sort of surprise you with saying that, you know what, I got this bag. I remember one of you guys said the sponsor was Baggett. So I'm just, for promotion's sake, putting in Baggett here as well. I'm saying, yes, one of the girls is going to say, yes, I'm going to get a nice handbag from Baggett this evening as well. But these are just wishes. And I'm going to have one of the last videos, which is, I think, one of my all-time favorites. It's a commercial done a couple of years ago, but take a look at it and we'll come back after the commercial.
"'Twas a night before Christmas, and all across the land, the good folks at WestJet had a miracle planned. On the eve before flying, the guests were in their beds. Visions of traveling danced in their heads. While out on the runway, something secret had arrived. It was left in the lounge. 'Twas a Christmas surprise.
Is that Cohen? What are you looking for Christmas this year, Cohen? A choo-choo train? Ho, ho, ho! A classic! Do you like Thomas?
Yeah, I like Thomas.
What would Mommy and Daddy like for Christmas?
Big TV.
Yeah, big TV.
Ho, ho, ho! Alice.
Do I need to?
It's okay if you just want to stare at me as well. Ho, ho, ho!
What I need is new socks and underwear.
An Android tablet.
Is that William beside you? And Cameron?
Some Santa boots.
Stocking stuffing store.
While the guests told their Christmas wishes to good old St. Nick, WestJetters took notes and got ready to shop quick. It was a great rush with the 2 flights in the air to get all those presents. Not a moment to spare.
The same bells ringing, there's children singing tonight. Lights are bright, I know it's a beautiful sight. Snowflakes fall in the world, it's snowy and white. And Santa's coming to town, and he's coming tonight.
Okay, Thomas, let's get it.
flying with us at WestJet. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of your flight.
Happy faces were all so merry and bright. Santa's coming to town, he's coming tonight.
But was everything ready? We all had to wait for the moment of truth at Carousel 8.
Merry Christmas! Where's the Hughes family?
The guests never expected what they'd asked of Saint Nick would actually appear. It was all quite a trick. A WestJetter would say it was more than mere fun. Miracles do happen when we all work as one. We'll give Santa the last word on this most special night.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good flight. Ho, ho, ho!
So for a lot of people who've seen this before or have traveled to the US before as well, I think what WestJet is equivalent to, I think, what we have as Indigo and other low-cost airlines. So it's a low-cost airline which travels from one part of the US to the other part, short flights. And a lot of people will do this typically in the holiday season when they're meeting people across East Coast, West Coast, and all of that as well. And what you just saw was a simple, easy to sort of, I think, do, putting up a little Santa with a QR code, asking someone for their wish list and, surprising people with tons of sort of goodies. There's a huge case study of this, which you could Google up, and you should definitely, I think, make sure that all of you all as students sort of go through as well. And you realize that WestJet is not the most successful airline in the US, but it's suddenly the back of this one large campaign for the last many years that become the most chosen airline in the US. And that's the power of how I think you are able to create a differentiated story, one which I think not just is, because think about all of us as well. Is there really a differentiation between, say, traveling through Indigo and Spice? Maybe not. Maybe you would just say Indigo is on time, right? But they're both low-cost carriers at the end of the day. No one's giving you any other benefits in terms of tier structure or points or any of that as well. But if either of them, Indigo or Spice, must have done this in India as well and picked a communication proposition as strong as this, I'm sure for many years, not just you, but your entire family is going to continue to sort of making sure that you're going to be flying Indigo. And that's, I think, how you differentiate and create great value, positioning, product, and most importantly, create this whole brand personality of yours as well. And that's, I think, and I could go on and on. I know there's paucity of time, and I'd love for questions, which we will throw out very soon as well. But only for the benefit of trying to sort of just zoom in on different, I think, aspects I think brand is built not easily. It takes some period of time for it to be built. It has to stand on some pillars. The pillars could be about creating value, having differentiation, being closer to customer, having great reason to believe, proposition in terms of cost, many other things as well. Or sometimes it's just about saying that we're the first and biggest company, right? There is no competition to sort of Google. And you saw that as well. There is no place that, yes, you talk about people who sort of began their digital journey, some of people like us, Google was not the first search engine for me. It was perhaps Alta Vista and many others and many other spaces, which I'm sure all of you guys haven't even heard about. But today, it's only one space. If you today have to ask someone, first just think that it's afternoon, it's time for coffee. Immediately, coffee equals Nescafe. You don't think coffee equals to brew. You don't think coffee equals to Cadbury coffee. I'm not saying Cadbury makes bad coffee or brews coffee from Unilever is bad, but coffee for most people is either equal to Nescafe or for a younger generation equal to Starbucks. And that's how perhaps Starbucks speaks to Nandika, who's 17-year-old, and Nescafe, who's sort of, probably Nandika's aunt or an older sister who's probably 30 years old. And that's the positioning difference. That's really how the brand creates its own, I think, way of communicating, way of creating customer as well. And that's also important for all of y'all. But you've got to create that reason for the professor to feel good about you as well. All of us, I'm sure, have been students at some point, right? We want to earn brownie points with our professors, right? So I'm sure after this whole exercise between Isha, Ashna, the organizer, Sabriti, everyone's going to get a pat on the back from their professors saying, wow, damn good, superb organization. All of you guys did a good job for the event, right? And after that, maybe a sign off from any of those professors as a vote of thanks on social media to either Nandika or Ali or someone is going to go a long way, right? And that's how you're going to feel good about what you've accomplished, and the brand feels good about it as well. So when someone is, kind of doing good in some manner and being able to sell thousands of t-shirts, and those t-shirts are creating a story, and then you keep buying more of those t-shirts and they're getting sold like hotcakes as well, it's done its job for that particular season. And it's across any and every product service. I've had a lot of people who say, what? It's easier to build a brand when it's B2C, but it's not for B2B. Now tell me, when you're sort of selling a printer, in the good old days it was B2B, right? I'm selling it to offices. I'm not selling it. So today, for example, that divide of B2B and B2C and or B2C to B is also sort of blurring as well. And yet in all of those pillars, you still have to create a brand. It's not very difficult either as well. A lot of people will think, what, you put sort of good hundreds of crores behind it and suddenly you can make a brand, right? I would say yes and no. So you've got a lot of money to burn and suddenly you can create a company called PhonePe within 5 years because you've got hundreds of crores to burn. But there have been other companies who've tried to do a similar company like PhonePe. Then how is it that, yes, there's only one PhonePe and there's only one Paytm and there's only one something else. There are 12 other companies tried to create something in the payment space, but they couldn't do it. Which means, therefore, that tick-off that we did by saying just by burning money, you cannot build brand. But you had to create either a UI, a UX, a promise, a service offering, which was easy to understand. And payment is what it should happen just quickly, seamlessly, all that, right? Out there, you're not going to sell, emotions. But who knows, after 2 years, when PhonePe already has, 500 million customers, they don't need to get 100 more. Then they will need to make an Amma story. So that's really what I would want to end this with today. And I know we may be short of time, but I'd love for Isha and all of you organizers to ask, a good set of students who've been patiently hearing me. I almost think I was just, non-stop jabbering, but I want to take a pause and I want to make sure that I have some questions as well, and we can make this a little more interactive.
Yes, so surely. We do have a few questions in the chat box. So Keshav has asked that what kind of points should one consider when they have to cover a sensitive topic in commercials without hurting the sentiments of the public?
I don't know, when Keshav, you asked that question, is it something that's already in your mind? And I don't know what is sentiment, right? So let's try and make sure that if you want to create a brand, try and avoid getting into any controversy, right? Don't get into that whole religion thing. Don't get into some things which will easily irk off people. So as much as if you can keep it simple, believable to everyone, across religions, across gender, across all that, it's fine, right? Don't say anything in the narrative that this is meant for her, this is meant for him, or it could be meant for he, her as well. So I would just think, yes, it's easy to just play it simple. And if you want to still create those shades of gray between black and white, create it, but don't layer it.
Sure. So we have another question by Trisha Kanda. It says, what do you think is the best platform for digital marketing? And what do you think it should vary upon, like age or any other factors like gender and stuff?
I don't think there's one platform, but I'm just saying if I had to pick and choose, there are two giants which have been around and have built these large communities. So there's a Google and there's a Facebook, right? And you don't have a choice but to have in your digital marketing strategy, if you really want to create a brand, you've got to at least have those two pillars. If I've got to take a third, I would take an Amazon. And if I pretty much have all the three covered, right? So I've got a strategy for, I think, Google, Facebook, and Amazon. I'm sort of sorted out pretty well as well. And I think, yes, again, I don't think I will kind of do a difference in terms of being sexist out here at all. But yes, you can't have the same strategy and you can't have the same thought process. So how Google is different from what a Facebook is, right? So you'll have a different approach to building a brand on Google vis-a-vis on social, vis-a-vis on an e-commerce platform.
Absolutely, sir. Agreed. So in the interest of time, however, we'll have to take our last question for the session. It is, do you think digital marketing is the future of marketing? And how will that affect traditional modes of marketing, such as billboards, news ads, and others?
So I'm a hardcore sort of digital sort of connoisseur, and I've sort of had all of my career in that space as well. But I think we still need to realize that we are living in a country like India where there is disproportionate inequalities of people, ethnicities, geographies, and all that as well, right? So I cannot in any manner say that all marketing must be digital marketing. You cannot in any manner undermine the importance of what television is for a tier 4 city. Or you cannot sometimes take away from that immediate feel good of what that delicious KFC chicken is going to be doing at a railway station if you're feeling hungry and you want to just board a train, for example, right? So each medium is going to play its role. It's about trying to identify in terms of, yes, if you have 100 rupees to spend, how are you going to divide that 100 into these different sort of spaces and pockets to ensure that you have largest yield for your 100 rupees, and yet at the same time be relevant to say, yes, you build the most successful business on this medium. Perhaps time might tell in some years that this medium will not exist. But I think that time is still a long way still. A lot of people thought that this medium will completely die down. A lot of people keep saying, print is declining and some stuff. But we still have loads and loads of houses which still have newspapers. We still have not just newspapers, we have newspapers going on in 50 plus languages. And you still have advertising going on those places as well. So I don't think, is something going to come out of any of that? No. Yes, digital is fastest growing, and you must have a very thought out process of what you want to do there. You may want to sort of say that, as a company, I don't have the ability because television is very expensive, so I can't afford it now. Or you might say, there is hardly anyone going to cinema right now because of the pandemic. So I'll choose not to be in cinema right now because those cinema places are closed right now for me. Or you might say, you know what, in some time to come, suddenly we don't know, 10 years from now, there may not necessarily be any radio stations because everyone is going to perhaps listen to the Spotifys and the Googles and many others playing music basis either artificial intelligence. So I'm going to play music in my car. So when Ashna is driving from Jain College back to her house, for example, the car will know what mood she is in and will play music to either that or even basis something which she may have searched on. So she doesn't have to go to 94.3 or 92.7 to choose that song. So that's when I think, yes, if a medium dies its natural death, is not any longer available, then we start to figure out what is available and to make sure that we try and fulfill that to the best. But yes, at least digital is here to stay. It's most, I think, easy to measure performance, metrics, KPIs, all that as well. So I would encourage, of course, for benefit of a lot of people taking their careers, looking at opportunities within digital, yes, it's, definitely going to be more and more interesting times ahead as well.
Thank you, sir, for this extremely insightful session. I'd now like to invite Samriddhi to give you the official vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nandika. On behalf of our principal, faculty, and entrepreneurship cell and skill hub of Jai Hind College, I extend my gratitude to our honorable guest speaker, Dr. Kushal Sanghvi, for taking out time from your busy schedule to grace the event with your presence and contribution and make this workshop a great success. Thank you, sir, for inspiring and encouraging us with your words and providing us with such valuable information about digital branding. Your knowledge and expertise on this subject really gave us enormous insights, and we are grateful to have you on board with us. And no doubt those beautiful videos really made the session much more interactive. Thank you once again for coming to our summit.
Great. All the very best to you guys as well. Hopefully, I'm sure you guys are going to have some more interesting sessions with more interesting people as well. All the very best in your careers. Stay in touch, like I said before as well. Connect back on LinkedIn. And I hope that maybe there's a way that we meet in physical presence in Jai Hind College pretty fast, pretty soon. So take good care of yourselves. Have a great Friday evening ahead.
Dr. Kushal Sanghvi, just sorry to interrupt you. I'm Dr. Rakhi Sharma, faculty. So I got a little late. I just was traveling, but I heard around 45 minutes of your talk, and it was really mesmerized. I was very mesmerized looking at the kind of videos and the different linkages which you have brought in from a digital marketer perspectives, and a lot of specific things which you have led to the thought process progression to our students. It was really, really commendable. And thank you very much on behalf of Jai Hind College. I extend my a lot of gratitude to you for coming and accepting this invite and holding a session post lunch, like in this kind of time. So that is also commendable, sir. Thank you very much.
Highly appreciate, Rakhi. And like I said, I hope to sort of be coming out to Jai Hind College and not on Zoom pretty fast, pretty soon. And making sure that all the students can benefit to this in a big way as well. Yeah.
It's a pleasure, sir. I'll send you a mail. There's something which we are working on in this field. So I will send you an email regarding that, and we will catch up on that after the summit.
Perfect. All the very best once again. Enjoy the session. Enjoy today. And, congratulations for this brilliant sort of, I think, great sort of annual summit. And may Jai Hind keep going to different glories over the years ahead of time as well. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The feedback form has been floated in the chat box. Everyone attending from YouTube Live, the feedback form has been sent in the comments below. Please fill in the form before you leave the meeting. Please fill in with the same details that you've been filling the other forms in order for us to calculate the number of sessions that you have attended.
Once you fill the feedback form, you can leave the meeting. Our next session starts in 3 minutes. That is at 4:30 for supply chain. Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much.